Welcome to Alter. I'm your host, Nicole Moline. This podcast explores the practice of transformation as a conversation between hustle and flow. Altering, changing, growing, becoming, and altering, offering, surrendering, opening to divine conspiracy. It's the dance of the leader, athlete, artist, entrepreneur, committed not just to optimal expression, but to exceptional being. So here are adventures in alignment and conspiracy, awake to all the grit, dirt, and complexity of our world, alert to the graces that come alongside the struggle, the hustle, a cocktail of soul food, new rhythms, and street wisdom, encouragement, an infusion of courage for the moments you need it most. I'm your host, Nicole Moline. Let's alter together. Hi, friends. Whenever, however, wherever you are today, take a deep breath. Let it out slow. Another, the deepest breath you've taken yet today. Even slower exhale. Another, into your belly. Notice what's shifting with the exhale. Did your stomach start to release some knots? That tightness around your heart soften? Your thoughts slow down? One more deep breath into some knot, some grip you just noticed. Exhale out from under something you've been weighed down by today. Maybe you keep breathing like this, with a little more attention, even just curiosity about the possibility of a new state.
And I've come to roam the forest past the village.
We're listening to Joe Pug's epic Dylan-esque song, Hymn 101, and I love the refrain, I've come to test the timber of my heart.
I've come to test the timber of my heart. Oh, I've come to test the timber of my heart.
I have a new word for you, my friends. It's directional. It's true north, a compass point. Maybe the simplest mantra when your world starts to spin. Heartward. Heartward. Moving from the still center, through the noise, through darkness, through resistance, making space for the heartbeat, the ache, the vision, however quiet, however fearful, that is yours. Yours for all of us. Let's talk about meditation. It's the simplest thing in the world. Is there really much to talk about? It's breathing, maybe closing your eyes. Is this really that complicated or essential or just trendy? It's a technology of soul. Maybe even cosmic exploration and healing for which there's a millennia of wisdom and theory and experimentation. So yeah, let's talk. For me, it's a way of dropping into the heart, of living heartwardly. It's opening the compass to see where I'm at, where I'm headed, and what the heart demands. A couple years ago, I had a big bike crash, separated my shoulder, and it was the first domino to fall in this series of disorienting losses. I believe in the both and of grace in our lives coming alongside legit catastrophe. And weirdly, at that moment when I was most confused about my own direction and dealing with the pain of a separated shoulder and a flood of fears about the future, my life was flooded with the theme of meditation. Meditation was one of those graces for me. I started to practice just a 10-minute mashup of prayer and breath most mornings. and came across teachers and guides at the moment I was most confused at my own direction, most in need of tools for living with and learning from pain. And it became the still point at the center of a whirlwind, the gravity that allows for powerful launch. Meditation is ripping open the rib cage so the heart can breathe. Permission for ruthless honesty about all that's going on inside. Prayer's starting point. A quiet body so the heart can rage, hope, grieve, desire. Often not easy, tranquil, or painless. Better than easy. True. Learning how to sit in the mystery of our lives, how to be fully present in love, war, art, work, chaos, silence. Most of us are so deeply skilled at numbing, some way of choosing not to be fully present in our lives because our lives are painful. Meditation can give us a toolbox to be able first to recognize those moments, listen to them, and get curious about what the pain teaches. Show up with authenticity and integrity in alignment with how we want to alter, to become. I think about meditation as dropping roots and spreading wings. Dropping roots into pain, into grief or anxiety, into what's stirring to find out what it's telling us about ourselves, about our desires, about our needs, the needs we can actively pursue meeting, maybe the ways we need to be parented or we need to parent, the ways we need to be healed or we need to heal, to create, to be friended or to befriend. And spreading wings toward pleasure, toward calling. Let's shift into a different register. Poetry and music expansive enough and then some. This is Mumford & Sons' new one, The Wild. I love how it contracts to a whisper so it can expand into wilderness. That's basically how meditation, rest, and integration works. Do you think it's any coincidence we have to sleep to dream?
We saw birth and death. Can we be still? What makes you kind? From where comes your sparkling mind?
Yoga as a movement practice, or asana, was created as simply a prelude to meditation. So asana, which is the movement element of yoga, the posing element of yoga, is just one of the 8 limbs. So the sequence of poses to move every part of the body and rid the body of tension and pain was so you could finally sit down and meditate toward a clear mind. The old yogis talk about the Kundalini Shakti, the seismic buzz of energy we can experience in meditation when we arrive at a moment of transcendence, enlightenment. There's stillness and more stillness until the monkey mind begins to finally doze off. And then what yogis describe as a blazing blue light radiating from the center of the skull. Some call it the blue pearl. We all have it, but some yogis say it has to be released from its coil with some kind of initiation, some kind of shaktipat, usually a guru's touch or visitation. It's kind of interesting to think that at its root, then meditation is this communal practice, right? It's this practice of being mentored, of being taught, and of walking alongside another in this way. I know, I'm getting super woo. But I just want you to know the roots and the cosmic possibilities of this practice in addition to practicalities. So y'all remember the phenomenon of Eat, Pray, Love, right? This book, Elizabeth Gilbert's masterpiece. And I say masterpiece intentionally. When I first saw this book everywhere 10 years ago, I thought it was too popular to be profound, and I never read it. And then I was in India a couple years ago, a month after my mom died, drawn to Mother India for all these layered reasons, having felt a pull there for decades. And I wanted to feel cared for, mothered by this place at the moment I felt most vulnerable and so lonely. I just wanted an American voice as a companion, someone who'd come from my world into this one in a similar way, open and alone. Liz has since become one of my joy gurus. I call her Liz because I feel like she wants us to. She writes like she's the friend who just hangs out on your porch and throws down hilariously fearless truths. Her portrait of meditation in the book is so evocative and somehow both detailed and mysterious. Meditation is both the anchor and the wings of yoga, she writes. Meditation is the way. There's a difference between meditation and prayer, though both practices seek communion with the divine. I've heard it said that prayer is the act of talking to God, while meditation is the act of listening. Little side note, this reminds me of the story I love of a monk on Mount Athos in Greece being asked, "How do you pray?" He said, "I listen." What does God say? He listens back. Back to Liz. But to stay in the present moment requires dedicated, one-pointed focus. Different meditation techniques teach one-pointedness in different ways. For instance, by focusing your eyes on a single point of light, or by observing the rise and fall of your breath. My guru teaches meditation with the help of a mantra, sacred words or syllables to be repeated in a focused manner. Mantra has a dual function. For one thing, it gives the mind something to do. It's as if you've given the monkey a pile of 10,000 buttons and said, "Move these buttons one at a time into a new pile." This is a considerably easier task for the monkey than if you just plopped him in a corner and asked him not to move. The other purpose of mantra is to transport you to another state, rowboat-like, through the choppy waves of the mind. Whenever your attention gets pulled into a cross-current of thought, just return to the mantra, climb back into the boat, and keep going. Your ego's fighting for its life because it's about to get downsized and your heart will be making all the decisions. So it's bullying you like crazy. If you clear out that spot in your mind you spend obsessing over, you'll have a vacuum, a doorway. God will rush in and fill you with more love than you've ever dreamed. So Liz alludes to these kind of two types of meditation, and I'm going to broaden it to three. Mind focusing, a mantra. Mind emptying, just breath. And I'll throw in a third, visualization or manifestation. Inhabiting a mindset, and really importantly, a body set, a way of being in which your life feels lush. So powerful as we transform, as we live into our becoming. I'm going to give you lots of guided meditation and visualizations as bonus episodes in this podcast to give you a matrix for experiencing what you feel called to, calling it into your life, opening up to collaborate with spirit. Your mind is designed as an administrative system to guide and aid your life. It's kind of like a secretary to the corner office. But my friends, who's in the corner office? Who's the boss? Your heart, spirit, soul. How are you checking in? The first few times you meditate may feel like a swirl of confusion and feeling. May feel totally boring. You may finally start to notice your attention span, how antsy you've become, how anxious. You don't win at meditation. You don't master it. You practice it. There's a reason we call it a practice. And it has a summative or amplifying quality in that you can meditate for 2 weeks straight and feel like 10 of those days had no effect on you. But notice at the end of those 2 weeks an overall calm. You're falling asleep easier. You're slower to react rather than intentionally respond. Your immune system very well might be functioning better. Your digestive system might be functioning better. Meditation is a practice of attention, a way of regularly noticing what you're thinking or anxious about, what's stirring. And that alone is such a valuable practice, that checking in. That's always the first step when you start to meditate, when you take those first few kind of entry breaths. You notice what thoughts are disturbing you. And if you don't do that, if you don't take that first step, you can go through an entire day without even registering what is actually shaping your mind and even your body's functions, even the health of your digestive system, your immune system, your adrenal system. So important just to notice in those first few breaths what is actually disturbing you, even if you don't actually get past that. But it's also a practice of deep rest. Rest that can be deeper than sleep because the mind is intentionally stilled. So let's talk about rest. Here's the magic formula, y'all. Stress plus rest equals growth. Stress plus rest equals growth. You grow in the rest. We don't grow in the work, in the hustle. That's what breaks us down and creates the possibility of creating and recruiting new resources. But it's counterintuitive. You get uncomfortable. You go to the gym and you have a hard workout. You study and absorb new ideas. You have tough conversations. But you grow in the rest, the recovery, the integration. Torn muscles build and recruit new muscle fibers as they heal. And you know that feeling of soreness after a big workout? That feeling of disruption in a relationship after a tough conversation? Those cravings or depression or pain after stopping a habit that's limiting you? Change is uncomfortable. But when has growth ever been comfortable? And has anything ever felt better on the other side? So we need a spiritual toolbox to deal with the moments of stress and inertia that growth activates. That's why we're starting this journey with this conversation about meditation, about rest, about integration, about constantly reorienting heartwardly.
It gets stuck in my teeth. Can't find the words to say goodbye.
This band, Until the Ribbon Breaks, creates atmospherics of space and mystery. They know something about rich delay, about crafting a space for strong feeling that escapes words. It's so much of the experience we have when we drop into those first few breaths of meditation, which are often disorienting or finally in touch with feelings we don't have words or containers of any kind for. And we can let them do their work in us. This episode is about meditation, restoration, and integration, which is to say, it's about waste. A conversation about rest is a conversation about waste, because in our culture, rest feels like wasted time. So let's talk about restoration. I came across this sentence by David White on Krista Tippett's On Being podcast. Rest is the conversation between what we love to do and who we love to be. Rest is the conversation between what we love to do and who we love to be. So it's not just what we do in this life, right? What we do in this life has a tense relationship with who we are in it. So if we're not constantly recharging, if we're not reconnecting to the heart that's at the center, that's driving why we're doing what we're doing, we won't do what we're doing well. Have you ever been part of a crush it culture? We prize doing over being, productivity at all costs, gains, maximum miles logged, races logged, where it's actually a point of pride to injure yourself on the way to the finish line, how sleep deprived you get on the way to finishing a project, how little attention and cultivation you gave your relationships. Arianna Huffington just recently came out with this great book called The Sleep Revolution, Transforming Your Life One Night at a Time. And if anyone, if I think of anyone as a Wonder Woman, Arianna certainly gets that title. She's done it all, very literally. And she literally collapsed because of that kind of crush it culture mentality. So she wrote this amazing book. She did all of this research first experientially, and then theoretically, all of this research on sleep and rest and its power in making us more efficient, joyful, heartful, and surprisingly, actually productive. But I love just this kind of simple statement that she makes in the book. She says, it's our collective delusion that overwork and burnout are the price we must pay in order to succeed. She goes on, the evidence is all around us. For instance, do you know what happens if you type the words, "why am I?" into Google? Before you can type the next word, Google's autocomplete function, based on the most common searches, helpfully offers to finish your thought. The first suggestion, why am I so tired? The global zeitgeist perfectly captured in 5 words, the existential cry of the modern age. When everything is screaming at you, go, 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 do you know what the subtext to that is? You're not enough. The subtext to this kind of productivity, crush it culture is you're not enough. You have to create more. You have to produce more. You have to do more to register your significance. So many of these accomplishments that we're chasing are a stand-in for significance. There's so many messages of progress, polish, accomplishment in our culture, and so few of the brokenness, the falling short, we're all constantly feeling in the wake of it. But we're after wholeness, and that's a slow process. So here's a revolutionary proposal for you. You ready? Let's think more about the self that we bring to our tasks rather than the number of tasks we can accomplish. What if we tried doing less with more? Doing less with more of ourselves, more presence, more energy, more joy, working well, not just working hard. What would it look like for you to bring more of yourself, more energy, more enthusiasm, more presence, more joy to whatever you're doing? For me, I've realized that's going to look like doing a lot less, refusing the tyranny of the urgent over the important, those outside demands marked urgent, and dropping into the heart to understand what's important. Living and working as though the main thing we share with others is our own inner state, because it is.
Harvest all your thoughts like fields of golden corn.
The song Walk Quietly by Trevor Hall is a version of the poet Mary Oliver's great line, attention is the beginning of devotion. Attention opens us to the layers of wonder all around us. I love the words that he ends with. Hold your breath from all those voices that are dark. Look inside and hear that symphony of hearts. If we tuned them well, the forest it will sing. Behold the song of many queens and kings. Walk quietly.
Lift your song up to the winds and watch it turn. I own nothing, I own not even my soul. In the silence of the heart, all things unfold. Walk quietly.
Most good food is slow cooked. Most lasting community is slow grown. Most lasting fitness is slow built, because slow allows for integration. So let's talk about integration. All throughout the day, you're receiving inputs. We live in a media-soaked world that turns on an economy of discontent, fear, and low-grade confusion. Hear that. Very important. It's an economy of discontent, fear, and low-grade confusion. Lots of people are making lots of money on the fears and discontent and confusion that marketing is stirring up. The best analogy I can come up with is for this environment that we live in is a tropical climate where the humidity is so intense it just envelops you. The moment you step outside your heart, the moment you reach for your phone, open email, turn on a podcast, radio, TV, you enter the insufficiency industrial complex. And most of us don't leave all day. Most of us never leave. We go to sleep without having taken a moment or a few during the day to integrate all the inputs we've received and check in with how they're registering on our hearts, what's stirring up, what they're depleting from us. In the same way, our bodies take time to break down, digest, and absorb or excrete food, our souls need to process and, really important, often discard the inputs we receive on a daily basis. There are so many messages of success and victory and satisfaction and polish in our culture, and so few making space, giving voice to the real human experience of brokenness, grief, failure, we're all feeling at this display. And that split between what we think we are expected to feel or portray and our true selves is a split self, a feeling of constantly lying, a fear of not being loved for who we truly are, of not being enough, a constant low-grade sense of failure and imposter syndrome. The root of the word integrate is the Latin integrare, to make whole. We go through the day and our attention is pulled in 1,000 different directions. Our desires are stirred for so much that we don't have, other than what we're experiencing. And our hearts are constantly unraveled. So, big question. What is your path home to whole-heartedness? What returns you home to yourself? Do you know the voice of your heart, your spirit? If not, then let that register. Start by at least recognizing that. I love this cinematic but intimate song, Cathedrals, by John Lucas, about wandering toward home.
I have raised my voice with a multitude of angels whose nests are treasured by your trees.
Our body's responses to stress affect every system of the body. So, quick overview. Your body has two systems of functioning, parasympathetic and the sympathetic systems. So the parasympathetic system functions when you're at rest, at ease. It's rest and digest, it's called. So blood is shifted to the digestive organs and the body is in repair mode. The sympathetic system is the alert system. It responds to stress by turning off digestion and repair. It activates stress hormones. So guess how your digestion and sleep and metabolism and overall inflammation repair are affected when you don't rest, when you're in constant alert. This is so important. Our nervous systems were shaped in response to stress to keep us safe. But evolutionarily, that was activated very rarely. Maybe once a day would we see, a lion, or we'd have some alert, something that shifted us into stress mode. Now, with the way our lives and experiences are structured digitally, we are constantly on alert, constantly being notified. Think of how many times a day your phone rings or pings or vibrates, how many sirens you hear, how many times you're suddenly put on alert. We've created a world where we are on all the time, starting with the light bulb and culminating in the 24-hour news cycle. This gives us the delusion that we're kind of invincible, that we don't have to turn off. We don't rest because we haven't admitted to ourselves and integrated into our lives the fact that we are dependent beings. We are not immortal. We require food and sleep, rest, and spiritual care, integration to live. Practices of rest. And I'm going to talk about this later in another episode because it's so rich. Mindful practices of eating that also honor this truth that we are dependent, not just honor, but celebrate this truth that we have this constant literal conversation with the world in our bodies, right? We have to take in the world. We have to eat the world to live. So mindful practices of eating, practices of rest, honor this truth of being dependent beings. And this is why loss and pain devastate us, because we haven't accepted our limitations. So here's the juicy question. How can a realistic confrontation with this reality of dependency reshape our practices? I want to challenge you to experiment this week with a few practices of restoration and integration. Number 1, meditate for 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes is realistic, right? And I have found always, I usually, when I meditate, I set the little alarm on my phone, just like I do, same alarm that you would use to wake you up in the morning. And I actually set that alarm intentionally because it has a snooze button, because it never fails that I will set that alarm thinking, this feels like a waste of time. I don't feel like doing this, but I'm just going to give it 10 minutes. And when that alarm goes off, 10 minutes does not feel like enough, and I can hit that snooze button and keep going for a little bit longer. But I want you to just try meditating for 10 minutes a day, and it can feel like a failure, and just give it a couple of weeks and notice if you see some changes in the way you fall asleep, how well your digestive system is working, how much more mindful you might be in your responses rather than reactions. See if it feels like there's some more integration in your life. Number 2, drink 3 liters of water. I throw that in whenever and wherever I can because we're never drinking enough of it, right? So meditate 10 minutes a day, drink 3 liters of water, 3 big water bottles, and stand for at least 5 minutes every hour. That might feel like a little bit of a curveball, but let that standing break, and this is importantly true, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting for your work, let that standing break signal to you a moment of integration. So when you stand up For 5 minutes, you walk around a little bit, you just stretch, you take a few deep breaths, check in with your heart. Notice what you've been absorbing for the last hour, what inputs have come in. Integrate, discard what you need to, have a conversation with what you want to keep. So, meditate for 10 minutes a day, drink 3 liters of water, stand up for at least 5 minutes every hour. Y'all, let's wrap this up. Let's get weird. We're going to ohm. Oh my gosh, she's really going there. Here's the thing. I would have rolled my eyes along with you, but a few years ago, I was led in a few ohms at the end of a yoga class that broke my heart, or reknit it, I should say. It was healing sonic radiance. And since then, I give it a try. Maybe this was the first sound of the universe. It's the sound of unity, of wholeness. It's the name of God. At the very least, regardless of what you believe, it's the sound of wholeness. It's the hope of wholeness. It's a way to embody that hope. It's a way to fill your body with its vibration, with the vibration of hope. So let's do it. Bring your breath into your belly. Big ujjayi breaths. Assume the position, tall spine, regal heart. Send this to some part of you that needs healing. Deep breath. I like to bring my lips together at the end for the last third of it to feel the vibration of the sound in my body, to kind of seal it in. Send this next one to someone in your life or a situation in this world that feels broken. Sing wholeness to them. Deep breath. If you're singing along with me, why don't you harmonize if you can? What a cool idea is that we're creating a kind of extra space-time outside of space-time harmony. This last one, send toward your dreams, your longings, your creations. Join them. Inhale. I sent that last one to you, to your becoming. Do you feel a little bit high? Cleansed, maybe? We're going out on Leif Vollebeck's song, Rest. This song is straight up balm. It's like pouring coconut oil over your entire body. Just sink into it. Let it lullaby you.
For years I've been working, and traveling alone. I eat out in restaurants, where men wear cologne. Recognized as a stranger, every place that I went. Sometimes I just close my eyes begin my descent.
My friends, blessing on your journey, Heartward. The world needs you to move from the still center, through the noise, through darkness, through resistance, making space for the heartbeat, the ache, the vision, however quiet, however fearful, that is yours, yours, for all of us, as we alter together. Much thanks to producer Chad Michael Snavely for his expertise in sonic tapestry. The theme song of this podcast is Becoming My Own Home, which is exactly the spirit of the nomadic belonging retreats I lead, now called Alter Journeys, cultivating a home within. The heart as wilderness and wellspring, regardless of where life takes us. It's by the band The Collection. Their music is smart, layered, and aching with joy. Check them out and find a link to the song on the show notes or the episode playlist on my Spotify channel. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can join the community at altertogether.com. Click the link Together to discover an expanding collection of rich resources to connect you to your heart and to a community of soulful adventurers. Exclusive guided meditations and movement practices, live online conversations, a book club that I'm really excited to lead, and early access to Alter mentorship courses, events, and retreats, among other surprises. Creations to support your growth and your igniting work in the world. If you'd like to join the conversation and have a question or comment you'd like me to read and engage with in upcoming episodes, please go to the contact page on altertogether.com and leave an audio voicemail or send a message. I still look forward to hearing from and engaging with you. And if you're feeling especially generous, please leave a review for the podcast on iTunes, which helps others find it and this community. I'm grateful you're a part of it. My friends, let's alter together.
This year I'm becoming my own home. This year I'm becoming my